call the roll. Bob Blair. Oh, here. Lori Fairbay.
Here.
Kate Bliss.
Here.
Karen Schultz is not able to attend. John Barrett.
Here.
Linda Robinson.
Here.
Pat Wheeler is not attending. She's not
She's
staying
no
on
longer
the board.
part of our board.
Right, so we're in need of looking for a new member of the board. The whole agenda is around the subject of the COA van, to be. The van it is, but ain't moving. And so, go ahead with your agenda.
Yeah, so this is, it's primarily just to look over our policies and procedures, for both the driver as well as the van riders. And to tighten up anything that we don't have answers to. There was a select board meeting on June 2nd, and there were some questions that came out of it, that we need to make sure that we know what we're doing and what's going on and what our plan and process is. So, since we can't just email back and forth, here we are having the meeting. So I did email out the procedures for everybody. There are a couple things that I noticed, but did anybody see anything glaringly obvious that we needed to change?
Policies and
Yeah.
procedures.
Could you actually print one for me as
Can
well,
I-
please? Sorry. My printer is.
We can share
Oh,
if you
yeah, I
want.
haven't printed out, don't worry about
I
it.
don't, but it won't take me long.
So Melissa, there's a couple of points I had questions on.
Okay.
I should know, but
I wonder if I can print from here.
Did you see that? Right there.
Let's try it.
don't worry about it.
I'm gonna try, we'll see. Okay. John, what were your questions to start? See
They
if
may
those
not
print.
amount to much, but.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the one that says, residents are temporarily or permanently living outside of the town of Berlin due to residence in assisted living nursing home, are we gonna, they can also use the transportation?
Yes.
Okay, so my
Oh,
question.
no, they're not, no, they're not. Residents who are temporarily, permanently living outside of the town of Berlin
Are not.
not eligible for COA van transportation.
Right.
Oh, you're right, okay.
Yeah.
John, put your glasses on.
But we can take a Berlin resident to visit somebody
Okay.
that is in assisted living or nursing home or something, as long as it falls into the area that we decide. Which was another question of where we want the van to go. And if we have mileage restraints or anything like that. In my opinion, it's tough to put a mileage on it. Because if we don't have a ride and we have one person that needs to go to Boston, we're helping that one person get to Boston. Otherwise, the van doesn't drive at all. So, in my opinion, I feel like it may take 3 hours, but if that's the only ride for the day, it's better helping one person than telling them no.
Agreed. Agreed.
Again, I don't know, it's not listed in here, so I don't know if we want to discuss a mileage or a range, or if we go with that and see. I feel like it's gonna be a lot of changes and ebbing and flowing until we get it back up running to where we want to see it.
Have there ever been restrictions before?
Excuse me?
Have there ever been mileage restrictions before?
Time is-
And we've never run into a problem,
I
have we?
think- Not officially, we haven't,
Yeah.
but we have limited it, but not officially, it wasn't in.
So we did restrict it, we just didn't write it down. And what did we restrict it to?
Well, certainly not Boston, mostly just Worcester, Marlborough, Clinton, Leominster they would go to.
Concord?
Concord, yeah,
Anderson?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
there's another one. I think Framingham too.
That's pretty broad.
That's
pretty
yeah.
good.
So do we limit it to like
Keep those.
west of 128,
Yeah.
something like
And did you
that?
ever have any demand to go to Boston?
We've had requests.
Well, I just mean like we're not
There
gonna do it.
there are places you can refer them to where they can get a ride to Boston.
Could we put language in there that maybe says we're open to reviewing something on a case-by-case basis? Should it be?
outside of the following
Yeah, I think
areas?
that's-
Yeah.
I
Okay.
agree.
We can also list, if you can get me that information, do you remember who they were, or who we should refer to? I don't need it right now, but if you can get it to me, we can add that in there as well.
Yeah, the one I'm particularly thinking of was, it's for people who have cancer or something like
Mhm.
that.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't remember the name of him.
okay. I can do a little bit of research too. I know that there are sometimes, they have like veteran services that will bring them to the VA. There is, a gentleman who provided rides on his own, for veterans, so there are some things out there for rides that we may still not be able to accommodate. But I think, we should try to help as many people as possible within our community before kind of brushing them off into other,
Are those vet services still in place?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. Last I knew, I will say, 6 months ago they were.
Okay.
And we had sent a couple people, I don't know if they ended up using them, because I left in the time frame, but I did refer them to the veteran services.
Would they provide rides to, or is it in Boston?
They did the VA services, so they brought them to like Roxbury and.
Yeah.
To make
Yeah,
plans.
to
And
make
then
them, yeah.
Worcester has a big thing on the UMass campus as well.
Yeah, this one was for the Roxbury, wasn't Worcester, because we could have brought them to Worcester.
Yeah,
But this, it was outside
right.
of the area, so, okay, so we'll list those.
But I think your wording was good, that, if it's whatever, west of 128 or whatever, but that, we could look at areas outside of our approved areas or something, just so that,
Please still call us and let us direct.
But
Yeah.
it also
Yeah, maybe we can
tells
help
them there
find
are
an
exceptions,
alternative resource.
that you're willing to work with exceptions, so I think it's an important message.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in my opinion, I think if they call, like I said, and there's not anybody scheduled for 48 hours out,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not gonna, gas
Yeah.
mileage, yes, but if you're helping that person get to an important medical appointment that they may have to reschedule,
Right.
and we
and
don't
that's
have
really the
anything
reason we're
booked.
doing this, right?
And
Right.
if they're calling us, it's because they
Right.
don't have an alternative.
Right,
Right.
yeah. And there was discussion, I've been working with Sue Henry from Neshoba Neighbors, and she is
I know her.
very, very, positive. She is trying to push their people to us, because they feel as we should be the first line for
Good.
them. And she's been a great help. So we have some discussion. I do have some data from her, on memberships and stuff like that. They are actually growing to where they have less volunteers and more people almost, like, so they don't wanna take on too many, so they have a wait list basically for membership. And I love their service. But the thing is, if people are already paying their taxes for the town, and we already have this money built into our budget, and then we're asking them to go pay for a membership for something that we could and should, in my opinion, be able to supply and provide to them. We just need to figure out the kinks and make it work, They can, Neshoba Neighbors, the one thing that's great about them is they can do more than just transportation. So it's not just paying for transportation with the membership, but,
But that may be the primary reason
was-
that people are having
it
to
was brought up that it
join.
was the primary reason for them to join in the last 3 or 4 months, she said.
That's true.
So that's, there's a need, and I don't wanna share exact information until I hear from her that it's okay to share numbers and whatnot, but, there's some positive information from Neshoba Neighbors. And she does like the first line when they call, she wants to be able to tell them, have you checked with the COA? And she said what she was getting back a lot was that, well, their van's not running, so I need a ride, I need to book it with someone.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, again, we go back to the reliability people, we've trained them not to even call us first, so So with that being said, I think yes, adding in, you know, this information here about where we go, not exact locations, but the towns that we will provide to. And then that we are open to, outside of that area, if there's not another scheduled ride. Do you see that being like a major issue for scheduling at all? Do you have any issues with?
Well, it
With that?
depends on how many days you're gonna have.
So that is another thing. We have a gentleman who is willing to 100% volunteer. He wants nothing out of it but to help his community. He has offered Mondays and Tuesdays, he has full availability for the schedule. With that said, if we have him drive one day as a volunteer, that would, what we were discussing, the guarantee, we would be giving a driver up to the 19 hours because they could work 3 full days. Potentially, we'd get it up and running to that 3 full days. So that is where we're coming up with the 19 hours to keep it from going full-time. That's why 19 is key for us. It keeps it as a part-time position. So it wasn't that we're going to say you have 19 hours. We will hopefully get those rides up to the 19 hours and by using a volunteer for the days that might not be as busy and they're not having to sit around or not take a pay cut, I would say, for not working during that time.
I think also on that same line that the ultimate aim ought to be 5 days or 6 days a week for the van availability. And is 19 hours the total we're able to pay somebody for the week at this point?
Yeah, so they can't go over 19
An
hours.
individual or all of them?
Individual.
Okay.
So we
You
had,
could have 3 individuals and you wouldn't be,
when I did the initial budget, we had up to 19 hours on one, and then we did 16 hours for a second driver to keep them both under, to fulfill a 5-day week. I think to start, we won't do Fridays because, we'll see if there's a need. If there's a need, then we figure it out and we go back to the drawing board. But we don't work in the town offices on Fridays, and so what happens? Who do they contact?
If
Who do they
something
call? Does it go
happens.
just to Peggy? Is Peggy just on call for that Friday? You know, if something goes wrong, it's a lot of pressure for her to take on, without having somebody above. I mean, even, you know, like Kristen's not here, you know, so it's kind of tough, I think, to say right now. With that said, it would then change my schedule and availability to be here or if I'm on call or whatnot. So it's kind of difficult because I feel like there's a lot of moving pieces. And we have to kind of start somewhere to figure out what we're missing and where other pieces fall into play. So for now, I think this schedule would be Monday through Thursday, which on the van scheduling on page 2, it did say that it used to be Fridays.
Right.
But we'll take that out. And then 9 to 2 is when we would like people to schedule their appointments, because then a pickup would be at 8:30 at the earliest, and then a drop off at 2:30. So essentially those 9 to 2 would be driving people everywhere, but the 8:30 and 2:30 would be pickup and drop off. Again, we can play with this a little bit, but I think if we start with what was already in place and see from there where the requests are.
I think one thing that's helpful in that is we actually have a 3-legged transportation support system. We got some Neshoba members who can call on them. We have Catch Connect,
Yep.
which still needs a little ironing out, but transports between Berlin, Marlboro Hospital.
Yeah, in that, it's a great service, which I do want to speak to that too. There was, to clarify from, one of the questions that was brought up, the 8 riders a week, that was being questioned was actually Catch Connect. It wasn't our COA van when it was running. We haven't actually ran our van since December, so we wouldn't have 12 weeks of data, for that. So it was actually Catch Connect from when they started in February till the 12 weeks out. That's when it was 8 riders per week for that. So we did have some questions about if we only had eight riders, how are we gonna fill that? But I think, again, it goes back to, we have to start somewhere
Yeah.
Right.
in order
Right.
to
We
get
just have
this
to know
back
that it's gonna
up
be
and
fluid
running.
for a bit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
before
Yeah.
it
And I
gains
think a
full
volunteer
momentum.
is great, because they're not looking for pay, they're doing it for free, so they're available, they're not gonna say, oh, well, this isn't worth my time, I'm not making,
Right.
18 hours a week, I
The problem
can't
with
stay.
previous drivers.
It's
Yeah,
ideal.
the inconsistency,
Really.
and so, Peggy, I did wanna ask you, was this the schedule, like, that you kinda followed, the one that was in the van? No, okay. Was there a scheduling for this, or did you
Not
just?
really, it's whatever the
Whatever they,
driver was willing to do, basically. It was normally between, maybe starting at 8 in the morning
mm-hmm,
and no ride after the pickup, after 3 o'clock,
okay,
something like that. But, yeah, it was basically run by the driver, what he was,
and
willing to do.
to be honest, and I don't know who that was or whatnot, but I think that might be part of it. If you're, if we don't
I
have a
agree.
set thing
Right.
saying Mondays, Wednesdays,
Yeah,
here's where we can bring you, Tuesdays you go out of town to,
Yeah.
even though
Or-
Catch Connect can take them,
Yeah.
which, glad we have some Catch Connect information as well, as part of this transportation, thing. But that's gonna end in a year potentially too. So we have to have some sort of a plan, by the end of fiscal '26. That may not be an option, so we have to kinda get this, in the books and up and running and prove that we can handle this and we do know, what we're doing.
can I just ask a question about this? So,
Yeah.
so like the way that it's set up now, Tuesdays, you can't have an appointment on a Tuesday?
No, you could, if they come in, it's medical appointments are always first, they're priority.
Okay.
So you can call for an appointment, but, if you get them on the schedule for the Walmarts and the Market Basket, that's where they would go, but if nobody wants to go there, then,
But that's where Catch Connect does help. 'Cause
Yeah.
They can take us to Highland Commons.
yeah, they could,
Or
yeah,
the
or the
other
Walmart in Hudson.
mall.
Yeah.
the way we used to
Yeah, I
operate
think
it
so.
was, normally people would call the council on aging
Mhm.
director to
Mhm.
schedule an appointment.
Mm-hmm,
But we had regulars that would wanna do shopping.
mm-hmm,
And I would send them a text when it would be available to fit them into the schedule. And normally they were very,
so did they didn't do standing, every Tuesday I wanna go grocery
Oh, yeah,
shopping
They
and?
would say, I wanna go shopping Tuesday, and say, well, guess what, you're doing on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm,
Because we have a.
room on, yeah, yep, and I think that's okay.
Yeah,
I just don't want to. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
trying to
I think we have to
schedule-wise.
somehow figure out how to say this, like, this schedule, if I looked at this, would, made me think I can't go to an appointment on Tuesdays.
Right,
And,
now if I were doing it with my eye doctor, it's the only day I can have an appointment.
well,
Right,
that's the thing,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we have to, somehow word it so that we can build up the confidence of people who have doctor's appointments and want to rely on us.
mm-hmm,
And then, put secondary, appointments for shopping or something. It just worries me that if we say it
like
this
this
way,
block looks, even
Yeah.
though it says first come,
it
first
looks like
serve.
Tuesdays are shopping days.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, and, there's a lot of situations where you can only go on a certain day.
Well, we can cross out Fridays, right?
yeah, yeah,
Let's start there.
yeah, I did on my copy.
But it is
Um,
true that Catch Connect, if it's functioning the way I hope it would, really takes the burden off our backs about getting people to shop
To the shopping.
Right.
on any day of the week. 'Cause
Now,
we're
the
on how
question
many, 5
becomes,
days a week?
though, in the beginning,
Yeah,
do we
We're
want to
gonna want-
discourage anyone from coming to us
Right. No.
as we're trying to build our numbers to justify our existence?
right. Right. and
I mean,
but we
I can see it both ways. I'm not, that's not a rhetorical question, but,
Yeah. Right, because if we're, if we're not using Catch Connect, then they wouldn't wanna partner with us in the future because
Yeah,
we're not giving them.
Right.
I think we also need to have a little discussion with Catch Connect about making it more
We-
senior-friendly.
Yes, yes, we do. We were supposed to have a call, last week and unfortunately it had to get moved.
it hasn't been.
And we
It
have
hasn't been
not.
friendly or more
Is
challenging?
that, well, Sue and I took one today, just over to, what's the place in Marlboro, the
Apex?
Apex.
Mhm.
But we didn't go to Apex, we went to Foodpex, or whatever.
I was gonna say, why
Viva
did you go to
Trattoria Or
Apex?
something, yeah. And that surprised me, because my impression was that they take you to 3 locations in Marlboro, one of which is Marlboro Hospital. Okay, but the driver, actually, the first driver said, well, if you say what place you wanna go to, I'll take you there.
Oh.
And I
Oh,
thought,
really?
"Oh."
Wow.
Well, that's not
That's
the
the way it
story
went.
we originally heard, right?
No,
'Cause we
no.
were imagining people standing on the sidewalk somewhere.
Yeah, well, somebody said that they took somebody to shopping from Northbrook, and they stopped at the entrance on Pleasant Street and let the person off. Give me a frickin' break. This is a senior,
Right.
bags of groceries, and okay, there you go, here's a wagon.
Yeah, and that was on my question list for WRTA, last week to see what the norm is. It was sold to us as door to door. I mean, even at, it was like Village Court. They're not gonna go to their community house at the front. It should be door to door.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
if
it's
that's what
like,
you're
well,
selling to us.
In that respect, it's like a taxi.
And ours
You know?
would be at that, I mean, the van is door to door.
Right, but even with Catch Connect, it should be like a taxi. You call the taxi, you don't say, hi, could you come within, quarter of a mile of my house and drop me off at a store that's quarter of a mile where I really
From where
want you-
from where I am.
I'm going from here to there
Yeah.
and there. to back
So
there.
so did they bring you directly to Eva Trattoria?
Yeah,
Okay, and they picked you up from there
yes. So we ate and then called.
and
That's
called when
what
you
they-
were
yeah.
done? Okay,
And it was, today it was good. It was
Okay.
like 10 minutes. I think we'll be there in 10 minutes or 12 minutes. That's,
and they
Nice.
were actually there.
Yeah.
Bob was saying there's a part too that, they were saying 20 minutes and then you're just watching it go, now we're still sixth in line. We're still sixth in line and you're kinda like, well, now it's 35 minutes, and now you're 40, so that's kind of an issue, if they're using it for medical appointments. Grocery shopping and errands, I understand it's inconvenient, but we don't want them missing doctor's appointments by taking Catch Connect either. So there are still some things, with them that we need to iron out as well. And just some questions. It could be the specific driver. It could be, it's labeled as private way for Northbrook Village, and they were like, oh, private way, I'm not going down there. Or I have nowhere to turn around, or, something like that. And it's understood in there that you can't get to there's apartments around the back, and so they're not gonna drive on the lawn and get them there. But you should be bringing them to their building at least. So we'll definitely visit that, when we have our call with Josh, but for our van, I think it's pretty, deliver groceries, blah, blah, blah. It does say that, while there is no fee, a suggested donation amount of $3,
will be taken or you will keep your groceries.
yeah, so it also says no cash may be accepted by the driver. So they would have to send in a check.
Could we get a Venmo account?
I can look into that. I know I tried for the Girl Scouts, totally different, but I tried for the Girl Scouts and you have to have it like under a person.
Oh, you do?
So I couldn't do like mine and the business, like it has to go to, we'd have to have it direct to like our account here, so it might be more trouble than it's worth for the amount of donations that we,
I think in this case,
Receive.
Yeah, very few people donate.
Yeah.
If you ask for a donation, there was one lady who at the end every month,
she sent a check, yeah. I had a couple come in from
Oh,
her,
yeah.
but, but on the
Bring
same,
that up.
along the same lines is if you can't hand the driver your $5 or your $3, for me, it's out of sight, out of mind. Last week I was supposed to send her money for the field trip for my daughter. And I was like, yep, I'll send it in, filled out the form, sent her with the form.
Why
The field trip's
is
in 2
that?
days, and I forgot to send the money in. So I think they take the van ride and they go in, they go about their business, and then they're like, did I take 2 trips this month, or
Right.
3, or how much should I give?
Could we put like a little lockbox or something in the
Tip
van?
dish.
Like a
Yeah, like a,
Yeah.
maybe.
Like, what's the issue here? Cause this makes me think of when somebody hands me a $20 bill when we're doing our
The
meal
meal
pickup.
grab and
Yeah.
goes.
And am
Yeah.
I,
And you're like,
Well, no,
Take
because it
Yeah.
says here, no
Yeah.
cash may be
Right.
accepted by
So-
any COA personnel, and we're doing it all the time.
Yeah, right.
every time we do
For
a
the
grab and go,
yeah.
Linda, I think the account you were looking for is the Van Mo account, not the Venmo account.
Oh, Bob.
Maybe, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's because and you have to trust employees at the same time. I don't know if there was an issue previously that made them put that into place. Lockbox is
that's-
a great idea,
That sounds like boilerplate.
put it in,
Yeah, I think that they could do that, and then you
sign
have
off,
the
and,
key.
yeah, I have the
You
key
could,
and
like,
sign off
easily
on
find
it.
something at Staples or Amazon.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like
I
the
can check and
boxes they
see
have
if
on
that's,
buses.
Yeah.
Fair
if that's
and the-
possible.
right, you can't take it.
I think I remember that being discussed when it was first started, the van.
yeah. I mean, they do
And
receive a
after
receipt,
The
So
town
that's a-
administrator saying, no way, you can't do that.
yeah.
But that was a different town administrator. And
Yeah, I
Times
struggle with
changed.
sometimes we just seem to make things harder for seniors.
Right. Well, I'm sure
And
they'll
this
let us
isn't
know if
against-
they
and, you know,
disagree
it's
with our
just-
discussion on this, so.
It's, yeah, I just, I mean, I understand in one way, you just don't want a bunch of people having cash. But then if you're making it more difficult for them to get the donations, there's proof we're not getting
Right.
donations.
And this is not like big money.
And it's,
Right.
no, I mean, right, if you have,
Right.
100
And I
riders in the
think
month,
having
it'll,
a
you know, but-
lockbox then takes sort of the vulnerability away from the driver.
Yeah.
So, which we don't want them to be put in a bad position.
I will check on it and see what, what happened previously. The documents that we have were all, approved by the select board and council on aging in 2019. So
Yeah, they're all.
maybe it's time to update some stuff, the world certainly has changed in the last 5 years, 6 years. With that said, we would then have to, we'd probably have to, besides our meeting, Bob, go in front of the select board again, or maybe just give them documents to approve. I don't know if we'd have to,
We want extra money for a cash
Report,
box,
but-
please.
yeah, no, we have the money for the box, but we just need to find out, if we can. I mean, it says here- Well, so we didn't go to Boston, but there's a line here that says, if Easy Pass is required for appointments, the rider will be responsible for that toll amount.
Probably parking too.
that was,
So-
that was to Framingham, a couple of rides, I remember that.
Oh,
Okay.
on the,
Okay.
yeah.
That's the same thing
On
the
the
Sherman
pike.
Ayers does.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
Right.
I'm not opposed to it. I just was, if we're thinking
So what-
where.
I don't remember that. Where is that one?
It's on page 7 of the Berlin COA van policy and procedures. It's the big highlighted. It just kind of reiterates, but, what was in the beginning here.
We should,
Oh,
we
yeah.
should add parking to that.
And
too.
parking?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, is that, I'm reading on your copy?
Of course.
Yeah, that's, Sherman Neighbors does that, but parking, garage fees, and tolls. That's
Okay.
the only expense from the rider.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Driver drives his or her own car and provides his or her own gas.
Okay.
Actually Exxon's or somebody's.
Passengers must. fill
How
out-
is that billed to the rider?
So that must be part of the paperwork that the van driver probably does.
Is there a difference in fee for the amount of distance the ride entails? Because the one that's operating in Bolton will take people anywhere.
Yeah,
Kids, adults.
and they do a mileage.
Yeah, so much for so many miles and you go over that and it's
Yeah.
6 or 7 instead of 4 or 3.
Or do you keep it a,
Yeah.
Nice, easy
I think we just
$5
hope we get the
donation
$3,
with- right,
because we're not getting that.
yeah. Yeah,
So there's no donations or limited donations being given?
Very, very
When-
limited.
No, people just don't donate.
Okay, all right.
I mean, there's some that we, you know, like Peggy was saying, we do have one rider, the first 2 months that I was here, she did send in a check for $10. So we do get some. I don't know how many rides they had, you know, to determine if that $10 was, you know, $3 per ride or not.
Do we get any kind of deal where somebody says, hey, I pay my taxes, this is a town vehicle, how come I'm spending?
Right, which again, it was a question raised to me or posed to me about why they would have to join a nonprofit
Right.
if their taxes are already paying for things that we should have in place for them. A lot of, you know, a lot of chicken and the egg in this example, in this situation.
Same thing with Meals on Wheels, actually, that's a voluntary donation.
Yep.
and
Yeah,
There are not
and we, I
swarms
mean,
of people donating.
donating for that, yeah. So, I mean, we can, certainly, I can add, you know, if Easy Pass is required and parking, these are the places that will go, and then I'll get the information for the referrals. If we are unable to accommodate you, please reach out to blah, 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 blah. Just so they know they have an option in front of them.
Right.
Rather than them having to call and say, okay, well, they couldn't accommodate me, so now who do I call? Where do I go? That way we can just give it to them. But I mean, it does specify when scheduling a ride for Monday or Tuesday. You must call by the previous Thursday. I'll have to take out Friday here.
It's a great follow that. Did you get the email I sent you?
Yeah, I have yours right here.
Okay.
So so you didn't have them do a 48-hour?
What?
You didn't have them schedule a ride 48 hours? Okay.
We tried to, but, you know, the aim was to get people the rides if they needed them.
Right, right,
Yeah.
okay.
And there weren't a whole bunch of requests, let's put it that way.
Oh,
Same people over and over again.
Same people, okay. Van starts at 8:30 with last pickup to return home no later than 3.
We need to change this bullet before that, Monday through Friday, except for
Oh,
holidays.
yep, I changed on Thursday. Please be ready 15 minutes before your scheduled pickup time. As we may need to accommodate more than one passenger, there is a 30-minute window for passenger pickup. That's pretty standard in all policies that I found from other places. They should be ready at pickup time. COA reserves the right to leave after waiting for 5 minutes. While that doesn't seem like a lot of time, they should be ready 15 minutes before their appointment. So to be an additional 5 minutes after their pickup
I
time
think it's plenty.
is,
Yeah.
and if it's something where they need extra time, you know, we'll just talk to them, you know, do you, like, it's
They could
part of the form
communicate.
that you would
Right.
fill out and
Then
say,
we can say, oh, we can
need
accommodate
help
that
getting out?
today, or
Yeah.
no, the schedule's too tight, I'm
Right.
sorry, let's reschedule.
Is there
Yeah.
a case where the driver arrives, the person doesn't come out, and then you think, can I do a wellness check?
so what what has previously happened is, if you use My Senior Center, you put all the schedule and it prints out the report for them, and so the rider information is on it, and the driver called the rider.
Nice.
And if then, at that point, if they did not answer, they would let the dispatcher know, and then the dispatch would say, oh, yep, I had a voicemail in between here and here, they're running late, or they're not feeling good, or, yeah, let me send the police and check on them.
Yeah.
And
do a
they
wellness
do
check.
have, part of that form is a next of kin or who to contact,
Yeah,
right?
emergency contact is on there. And so I think, again, starting from this, they may have filled it out in 2019. And I don't know if we need to, well, we'll probably have to send this back to the board if we make the changes, but, things may have changed. The person that they had as the emergency contact is no longer available, they've moved away, something. So I want to get all new packets from everybody that's doing it. I wanna start as if we're doing brand new, starting the van now, updated information. Because we had the wrong address for that person,
Right.
for the grab and go.
Yep. That was
So
Relief for me, by
that
the
was
way.
in the system as what it is, but everybody knew that it was a different address.
Oh,
Apparently. So I wanna make sure that we're getting all the updated information for people that are riding, including emergency contacts.
I think there's information about driver responsibilities about well, at one point they're saying you're not to talk with the people in the van, really. But the other part was you're not allowed to assist somebody getting into the van, and that seems a
I
little.
remember
Yeah.
conversations
Yeah.
around that, if it's icy and stuff. And then
Drivers may
somebody
assist
slips.
passengers upon their entrance and exit of the van. The
Oh, that's
COA
better.
will determine if drivers are permitted to enter driveways for safety reasons, such as passengers who live on busy streets. So I think that's,
You have something.
addressed
We had
here.
a
On
discussion
page
around
2.
like inclement weather, and if it wasn't safe to be helping transport
was- I
somebody,
thought-
like if they slipped and fell and then,
I thought it had
If like
to
our
do-
Felt
workers
the
slipped and
driver
fell with,
was-
yeah.
I thought it
or,
had to do
or
with-
the rider.
Oh, and
slipped
felt that the
and
driver
fell,
was
and then-
responsible for it.
Right, then,
I thought our rule was if schools are closed, then we don't.
Yeah,
do
that
There
does
is,
say
that's
that
in,
in
that's
here.
in here.
So
Yeah, we
have a
kinda
statement
skipped
that
around.
seems to conflict with that, under passenger pickup.
On page 3, John?
On the second page of the Berlin policy procedures,
Okay.
it seems to, maybe I'm wrong, the passengers riding the van must be able to get in and off the van independently, or must bring an escort.
Yeah.
Well, that's reasonable. You do
I-
get into a liability if you.
It is, I mean, there
Well,
is, again, we go with this standard of independence, so if you need a little help stepping down, but they're not gonna like
Oh,
scoop
okay,
you up and
okay, all right,
pick you up, I
that's-
think is kind of where
there's no Hoyle.
Right.
it is,
Right,
right,
okay.
yeah. It's, I mean, it's, if you need help, you know, breaking down your wheelchair and getting up the steps, they can help. They're not gonna carry all your groceries into your home for you.
Okay,
I think
all right.
that's kind
All right.
of
Yeah.
where it,
I remember there being like some limitations on this.
but speaking of wheelchairs, do we
Yes.
have any standard training? Now, we're starting with all new drivers. Do we have any standard training for the drivers? I'm thinking the biggest place of vulnerability is that the driver must be trained how to secure the wheelchair.
Sure.
And I would suggest we have something that shows what we've trained, so that
so.
if we have to prove it.
I'm wondering, I know WRTA provides it for their drivers, like, if you drive a WRTA van, you have to have certain classes and whatnot. Bob, do you remember what they
Well,
did
when we
for
got the- When we
Berlin?
got the new van, the outfit that supplied the van sent somebody down with the van and showed the police and whoever else was
Okay.
here, plus our people.
So
how to
maybe
put
police
the
and
ramp
fire
down,
could just
get
do
the
it.
person in, lock the person in, remove the seat that's in the way of the van, the way of the chair.
Uh-huh,
Because to put in a wheelchair,
Wheelchair, you
take
have
out
to take
two
a seat.
seats. Yeah.
Mhm.
And this van has tie downs for 2 wheelchairs at the back.
And that's I think that being the biggest thing that I think they have to be trained on. But also, as part of that training, we want to include, is it this stuff, the driver policies and procedures, so that we can stress things like you can't be on your cell phone, you know.
Right.
Oh, this has to be signed by the driver.
Right, but
Yeah.
this could also be part of our training, so we can go through a checklist of they were trained to batten
yeah,
down the,
yeah.
they reviewed the driver policy, you know, all of that,
Mm-hmm.
in case we ever have to prove.
Yeah, yep,
Plus, the drivers have to be vetted for driving record,
Yeah,
and don't they have to be trained in?
Corey check.
Corey checked CPR, which, that was another question. I have already spoken to fire department, it was Kevin Colmy, and he, agreed, and this is again, I had brought it up to whoever in this room wants to be in that class, we just need to let him know how many we have, and he will run a class and pick a date. So that was already previously discussed. It wasn't, off the cuff information. So we do have boxes that we have checked and items that we have figured out and determined, kind of in the background that hadn't been expressed completely to, I guess, everybody yet. So I guess that's kind of like the questions that kind of came about were things that we just need to clarify. And we have, you know, we have the backup, and we know, I can answer those. So
Including defibrillator use, since it
I
has
have one,
in the office.
yep,
Yeah.
I have one in my office. It is 2 months old. I just got it 2 months ago.
Is it gonna be one on the van?
It'll be in the van. It's in my office, yeah, cause we just weren't running the van.
And does the fire department train the drivers on that too?
Yep, it's
Yeah.
part of the CPR
Oh, good.
class.
It is part of the
Yeah.
class.
That's
Although the
great.
defibrillator itself has a message in it.
It
that
does, yeah.
basically
It does,
tells you how to
but-
do everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think
There'll be
it's,
some training.
yeah, but it was in the CPR classes.
It's
I
really
just got recertified in October, and it was part of it.
Good.
And it's part of, it's ours, but it's part of the fire, so we got the same one that they use, fire and EMS, because parts are interchangeable and they can
That's good.
replace them
Yeah.
faster than having to figure out what brand you have, who do you have, what is this
No,
part.
you don't wanna
And
go
that
there.
wasn't the case, and it cost us a lot to go
Yeah.
switch
The
over
other,
to
yeah,
Yeah.
so yes, we can add that to, like, a checklist of what they've been trained on. Did they get this? We
I think
have
it
to
just
track when
covers
they
our
are due.
liability.
Yeah, we have to track when they are due for the next one. Some classes are 3 years, some are a year, so,
The other thing, I'm sorry, I just
Yep.
wanted to
No, that's
ask,
okay.
because on this driver,
Oh, you-
I
okay.
thought of this. So the driver's responsible to and do a van inspection. If you want something that they can follow,
we have one.
oh, good,
Mhm.
good. I was gonna say I can try to get one from my old
Yeah, nope,
manager,
that's
but-
been in place since day one. So there's a form that they have, that they've been filling out.
Peggy, was there some issue about somebody complaining that the step into it is a little weird, and
Yeah, I remember a discussion.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
About it.
so I don't know if that's been
Who
resolved.
else was involved though?
Didn't somebody go and
outside
check it and they were
also.
like, I don't understand what the problem is?
Okay.
Did we have any reports from our last driver? Because he drove for quite a while.
I haven't seen anything.
No, he wouldn't have done it. No.
Do we have an extra step?
There is a step outside the threshold, because otherwise you'd have to be a kangaroo to get into it.
Right. Maybe it was just where,
But also, you need something to grab hold of.
Right, absolutely.
I mean,
But there
even
should
with-
be, there's not a bar on the outside? There
Or
should be a grab
inside.
bar,
Yeah.
do we need a van field trip?
right? It's right outside, which will bring up the next thing that was, needing discussion and from us and to figure out, well, we say van field trip. It is currently parked outside the bays of the fire department over here.
With all the police cars.
With the police cars are underneath.
Yeah, I
the-
thought ours was right next to it.
It was until they got their new police car, and then they needed all those spaces. So our van
How many police
moved.
cars do we have?
Our van moved over to, like, right outside the fire bays where Assabet works.
Yeah.
And so it's in a parking spot, it's fine. It was previously housed in a building that they are considering demoing,
No,
but,
On Carter Street.
I mean, the highway one.
yeah, but, I don't know that it needs to be garaged personally.
In the winter?
Yeah, I've had a vehicle and never garaged my vehicle. Previous places that I've worked, our vehicles were outside.
We never garaged, the 36 vehicles I had in my transportation department were
Okay.
never garaged.
Yeah.
We
I
did
mean-
have a regular, scheduled maintenance.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, the driver decides when it needs to be done.
Mhm.
so that, you know, things didn't get away from us as far as making sure we kept it
Yeah.
as nice as possible. But we had no garage for 36 vehicles. They
Yeah.
all were in,
Okay.
down, in East Boston, in a parking lot.
Okay.
So plenty of rats.
Plenty of rats, plenty
We know
of
the
rats.
rodents and wires.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think that goes to the
Sorry.
checking it as you're
Bob is
walking
rubbing off on
every.
yeah, but also, you know, if we had some sort of regular, schedule of maintenance so that we know that, you know, I'm not sure the driver is the one that's qualified to check it, but, you know, that we say every 3,000 miles
Yeah, I
it gets a oil
I
change.
think that
And
is
at the time of the
on-
oil change, they check this, and this. you
I
know?
think they have a vehicle maintenance report. I will have to check
I thought we were
the
pretty good about
binder.
that before.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was, I
We
think it
just
was,
weren't super busy, so it wasn't.
they were filled out, there's a whole binder of all the vehicle inspection reports. I'll just have to see if I know the start mileage and end mileage was on there. And I think it was like, you know, are the tires all good? Is this all
Yeah.
good? So that we could simply add it.
And
Yeah.
even do a circle check, but during COVID,
Yeah.
they also had to wipe down everything inside when the thing was
Right.
operating with one person in our 10-person van.
Yeah. Yeah.
During COVID, nobody else wanted to be on there anyway.
But I remember, like, that when I first came, I think Russ was saying, this thing needs brakes.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure we should say when the driver starts to get worried that he can't stop, that's when we do the brakes, you know? Because, you know, so I mean, I think we have to probably have something a little more official to satisfy those people that are worried about the assets of the town.
Yeah. I mean, it does say each driver is responsible for overall appearance of the van, both inside and out.
Right,
Any mechanical or equipment problems, malfunctions must be verbally reported immediately to myself or Peggy.
I think with regard to that, we need to have some cooperative relationship with the highway department where we can take it over there for washing, unless we expect the driver to take it home in his driveway
In
and
his driveway, yeah.
wash.
with multiple
Was
drivers.
that
might
ever-
not be good.
What was that? I couldn't.
The van, like washing it, was that ever a part of
Yeah, well,
driver?
yeah, Russ wanted to, Bob was the one who wanted it washed, I think.
Uh-huh.
And
Yep, he
he
got mad.
couldn't find a place that would take it, cause it's too big to go into.
Oh, into the-
But she did take it up to the place, I think in Leominster for the
Undercoat. We just
Undercoating,
did
yeah.
that again
I
last
did see
year.
the bill for that, like, well, it was, I saw it on the expenses.
And I think he washed it himself.
I was
Okay.
gonna say,
Yeah.
I've seen those bays, but they're
I was gonna say you can self-serve,
but
yeah.
you could easily fit a van in there.
Yeah. I mean, we can visit that and see.
I would think the fire department or highway would do it.
Right.
Probably, I mean, we
Yeah, I
could
feel like we
probably
could
say, can we
collaborate with
use
another
your,
department.
you know, can you help us out, can we, you know,
Your power washer or whatever they use to keep the truck out from
Um,
sparkling.
so I can check
Barter
on.
for breakfast,
The only problem with
Yes.
this is if he brings something,
leftover
the
breakfast.
van, to a garage to be checked out or whatever, he has to sit there and wait.
And
for
wait,
it.
or get a
So
ride
that's-
from
that
somebody,
could be several hours,
yeah,
so.
Yeah, I mean,
consider, you know.
but if we, you know, if we know about that ahead of time, maybe we could arrange for someone
The
to
volunteer.
get the
well, and
driver
that's
back.
either on a day that we have a volunteer, or that it is part of the normal schedule, and so unfortunately on June 4th, we aren't available for rides.
Right.
I mean, it's gonna happen. We're not gonna be able to cater to every single person that calls in, unfortunately, for every
Yeah.
appointment, every call, shopping trip, but I do wanna try to get as many people as we can.
I agree.
You know, I do. I think it's a very important part of this town. I did meet a couple weeks ago now, at Northbrook Village, and there were a few people in that group, which was actually facilitated by Sue from Neshoba Neighbors, and she kind of did a focus group of the people that had newly joined or had taken the van previously to get the good, the bad, the ugly. So we did some background with them as well. And they're itching for a van. They really truly are. So I understand the concern of the budget and money, and it's very difficult because we have to start somewhere. And if we keep asking and I know there's a plan, and I feel like we just need to kind of push something out as long as it's legal and liability is covered. And, you know, I feel like even if we just started on Mondays with, you know, our volunteer, we have to. The longer we put it off, the longer people are going to find other avenues
True.
Or
or
have no avenue.
or miss appointments. And I mean, when you get to this population that needs rides, that doesn't have transportation, most that I had spoken to at Northbrook, they don't have family close. So we have to keep that in mind. I can drive a car, my mom and dad still drive, people are still able to get around. It could be that we have a volunteer that can drive at night to take them out to events. All of this, transportation and everything, goes around social isolation.
Right, very important.
And it's very important to get people out of their homes. And right now, we're not able to even get them to a medical appointment, or if it's with you guys or, you know, with Neshoba neighbors, I get it, but it's one person and one person.
Right.
Get them out in the community, talking to other people, sharing a ride with others,
Yeah.
go to the grocery store together. You know, you get
Go
to
to
know
a
people,
concert
you
at
live,
night
oh,
too,
you live
Carter.
three doors down from me, I didn't even know, or you're on the floor below me, you know. Especially in Northbrook Village, I feel they're very, they're very separated on 1 and 2, and, you know, so I just think it's a very important step for our population in the town. I mean,
It is
we-
also the number one reason that elders have poor health care is lack of transportation.
Yeah. I mean, you could see that just, I mean, if we do, you know, if we really get into it with, you know, Mass Health and PT1s and all that they have, that's a large population of people. But now with restriction guidelines and the numbers, a lot of people still don't make the income guidelines to be on Medicaid anymore. So that kind of got taken away as well. But, okay. So I think,
That group at Northbrook, by the way, agreed to be a focus group
yes.
to try Catch Connect and then report back. I mean,
Yep.
Make appointments whether they.
Yeah,
want to
so I
meet
think
them or
July
not.
2nd is our follow-up
Yeah.
meeting with them, and we actually asked them to buddy up. Take a ride with a friend, grab your, you know, somebody else in your building. If you're uncomfortable going by yourself on this, you know, to try it, have a partner with you, to make you feel better, see what it is. And then we wanted the good, the bad, the ugly, and Catch Connect, because we're told one thing and we don't know unless it gets back to us.
Right.
And so the example of getting dropped off at the front of Northbrook Village, that didn't come from the person that it happened to. It came from a friend that they told. And so it's difficult doing anything in trying to figure out where we're missing things if it's not getting back to
Right,
us. So I appreciate the friend that told us, but yeah, we want the people that are gonna tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right. We can't fix what we don't know is.
Right,
Right.
yeah, I mean, to us, you're telling us that you're supporting this many people, and it's, you know, 20 minutes, and we show up, and it's curb to curb, and as it's going on, we're kind of figuring it's not curb to curb, it's not 20 minutes, and you're not door to door, so, you know, that's, you know, some things to figure out with them, but.
Can I also ask if we are going to offer for all the activities that you're now developing, an opportunity for transportation to get to those activities?
I would like to be able to. I think that's a great use of the van. Somebody that was in the focus group actually said because they don't drive at night, but they're still mobile and they want to go out and experience nighttime stuff, could we get a ride to 19 Carter for some of their events? I'm like, absolutely, that would be great. And again, it's just gonna be schedule changing and whatnot. We just need to see if we have a driver available, if it's the volunteer, hey, can you pick up from 5 to 7, you
Right.
know, on this night? Is it me that does it? It's just a standard license, I'm CPR certified already, go through the training, great. Would it just kind of give me flex hours, you know, would be another thing. On that day that I had to work till 7, I would come in at 12 instead of
Right.
8 to 3.
Is somebody from the board going to say, but we're paying you to be COA director, not a bus driver?
Perhaps, but we won't know until we until we visit that, which we can certainly discuss on the 23rd and mention another. It's part of a plan, and that's all. Where I think we're really trying to tie down what our plan is and what. I mean, there's things today that we've discussed that I didn't even think about.
Right.
You know, so there are some things that we're probably missing, and like I said, this document, these are from 2019, so yeah.
Forgive me if
Yeah,
this is
no.
next on your, I did watch the select board
Oh, okay.
meeting, and, the part about us guaranteeing the 19 hours, and where we had sort of generally said, okay, while we're waiting for ridership to
Mhm.
go up, do we see if this person can do something else? I wasn't at the meeting that they referred to, and while I intended to watch it, I haven't,
Yeah.
I didn't have an opportunity before today. So I don't know what was discussed, I just know how we discuss things in meetings that I did attend, and it wasn't like a set in stone thing.
No,
So we're not in a spot where we need to redo that
no,
job
actually.
description or anything, right?
So I'm
Is there anything we
going
need
to
to
ask
discuss
for
today? Yeah.
clarification on that from them.
Okay.
Because as I said, all of these documents that I have in front of me that we should have been running this way, were approved by the Council on Aging Board and the Select Board, in 2019. And so part of the driver, policies and procedures, it's a whole list and then they have to sign it. This document actually does say each driver is responsible for performing any other duties as assigned by the COA director or scheduler. I don't know how loose that goes. I've personally been told in previous jobs that, you know, something that's not actually designated and but I'm asking you to do it falls under other duties as assigned.
That's right.
So I don't know. I'm going to ask for that. I do, you know, I will give them a whole packet of information before the meeting on the 23rd to see
Right.
if, you know, they feel like we need to rewrite it.
I feel like just having a conversation with anybody that comes in to interview about
Yeah.
what are your other skills. I mean, that information should be on a resume, and
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
like a lot of that stuff could be easily verified in a quick
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Call.
And then
Their
we're not
references
asking
and
them
see.
to like run a Ferris wheel. It's like alphabetize a folder or something.
Right. Or like right now, it could have been, hey, can you help stuff envelopes? Like, I get
Right.
it.
Yeah.
You're hired to drive a van. It's
Yeah.
probably not what you want.
Right,
But if we can pay you for that
Right.
hour
right,
by you doing something
Right.
yeah.
extra.
And it's not an all the time thing. It's
No,
just a
no.
one-off.
So I think, yeah, so I think there's some conversation to be had, certainly,
Just to
about,
Clarify.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's all it is, you know, it's just, you know, like I printed these off and just was kind of looking, I was like, oh, well, that says, so maybe that means that we can give them other stuff to do. With that said, again, if you're coming in saying, you know, I'm only here to drive, you know, we may not find, you know, we may have somebody that is adamant about not
Yeah.
doing anything else, and can we only pay them for the time that they're here and say, okay, well, refuse to something, where it won't count against them as a record or
Yeah.
like
Right.
as a write-up or anything like
Right.
that. But just so you know, if this isn't helped, then you're only getting paid for the hours in the van.
Right.
Yeah.
Perhaps that just needs clarification in the description,
Mhm.
and we can be done with that. Perhaps that's not even legal. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
That
Based
is,
on the last select board meeting that we're concerned about dealing with, what do you anticipate to be their focus on this upcoming one?
Honestly, I think they just had questions and it wasn't clear what we had planned and what we were doing. And I think it's a fair, request to need clarification on some of this stuff, because we just discussed this here and found some things that we already need to change or, you know, need to follow up on and discuss. I think it's just them not knowing where the why the money was back in and what we planned on doing with it. Again, some of it was the questioning of Catch Connect. That was questioned, but again, that was Catch Connect with the 8 riders. That wasn't the van. When the van was running, there were quite a few rides going. Unfortunately, some of the riders are no longer with us, so that happens too, with the population, but there's other people that can use it if they knew it was
Right.
reliable, and I think we just gotta kinda get
We just have to
somewhere, as long
start.
as we're covered legally and, you know, we, yeah, I don't,
And I
I
think
don't know
that's
what
a
else to-
concept, I don't know how else you get it through, but what you've tried, but I think that's a concept that has to be understood, that this has not been reliable
Yeah.
due to drivers and that sort of thing, and we have to give it a little fair time.
And I think that's, again, I think it's a fair ask of them asking us
Right.
what our
Yeah.
plan is. But like you said, I think, can you give us 6 months and see what we can do?
Right.
And if in 6 months, we look at you and say, yes, you're right, we had 2 people sign up a week, and we're paying this hourly,
Right.
you know, position, or.
Then that is fair.
And
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Right, and I don't think any of us would disagree with
No.
that
Right,
assessment,
right.
you know, if
But
it
I
doesn't
just,
make sense, it doesn't make sense.
it's been, in my 6 months, it's kind of been like, yeah, let's get this going, and then it was like, you don't have a van. Hey, we can hire a driver, oh, wait a minute for the budget.
Right.
Oh, you don't have money, you have the money, so, yeah.
And then, wait a minute, you have the money?
Yeah,
I've got a question on van scheduling.
Yeah.
Back to page 2.
yeah,
Thursdays it says in-town trips. Did people ever do in-town trips? Does
Peggy
anyone
would know more of in-town,
Yeah, yeah.
well, but shopping would
Well,
be
like I said,
Highland, yeah.
Cordelia's
There used to be
or-
somebody,
Yeah.
who we used to pick up on a regular basis, driving 19 Carter Street,
Yeah.
just because she was lonely and all, and just.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, I think, is
Definitely.
your question gonna be, do we need a whole
George
day of
drove.
in-town trips?
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think we would need a whole day of in-town trips, but possibly we could change that to, I mean, if we're not getting a lot of riders and they're not going very far and we're not bringing them to, you know, Boston, potentially Tuesdays become, you know, the in and out of town where you keep it, maybe we set mileage for that. Maybe the doctor's appointments don't have a mileage, but if
But
you're
other
going
things
shopping, we're not gonna take you to the Leominster Walmart, we'll take you to Northborough, or, you
Right.
know, try to figure that
I
out.
could see people wanting to go to like Wednesday coffee at.
Yeah, yeah,
Vet's
Mhm.
breakfast, you know, needing a lift
Yeah.
for Vet's
We used
breakfast.
to have a group of ladies
Yeah.
who, once a month, they would get together, luncheonette, they used to, you know, change houses.
Mhm.
And so they would have luncheon, and then they would spend the afternoon playing cards.
Nice.
And then they would pick up and bring home.
Yeah.
Driver had a blast with
Yeah.
that.
and and
But
I
don't,
think,
do we need to say a day? Like, if I wanna go to 19 Cotter on Monday, and you wanna go to 19 Cotter on Wednesday, but the day for in town is Thursday, like, why does there have to be a day if it fits into the schedule?
and I can see both ways. If you have a schedule, it gets people to go to things during that time frame. It's a routine for them, so they know they can go. Otherwise, they're gonna end up, I think that's where it becomes like, oh, we have one rider because they weren't able to accommodate me on a Wednesday here and Tuesday was here, but everywhere I've looked has a schedule for in-town, out-of-town. They also operate more than us too. I mean, they have 2 vans at, you know, whatever, you know, they have MART or they have WRTA plus their own van. Not a Connect, they will, you know, bring them everywhere. So, I don't necessarily know that we need a schedule to start. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
what
I
we
think we
should.
should
I think the more we
Probably
restrict,
is-
the more we're pushing people away.
Yeah,
Agreed.
maybe to
Agreed.
start,
Yeah.
we don't have a schedule, we just go back to, hey, Peggy, I need a ride on blah, 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 and we go, yep, great, we'll get you there. If we start to see that a lot of people are starting to go to, 19 Carter for
Yeah.
coffee hour, then we can be like,
I
hey,
think we should factor those things in and then build our schedule around.
Yeah.
that. Or build some
and maybe it
flexibility
changes
into our
the
schedule
days,
for that,
yeah, you know.
Most people, if you say, I wanna go to 19 Carter Street, or wanna go shopping,
Mhm.
if you tell them, we have a medical plan, but we can take you, a couple
Yeah.
hours after that.
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah.
They don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, it becomes, it's also about training people and getting them, doctor's office is included. Sometimes you can only do, like if it's a surgery, I forget who I was talking to, I think it might have been Sue. If it's surgeon, you only have surgeries on
Right.
Tuesdays, so your follow-up is only on
Right.
Wednesdays, whatever. So they're not gonna be able to work with you outside of those hours, and that's something that we might have to adjust to. But if it's routine visits, if it's your normal annual exams, if it's, you have an appointment every month, you can kind of, if you ask them and tell them that you only have Mondays available or Wednesdays available, most doctor's offices say, okay, let's do it for a Monday or Wednesday. If they can't accommodate it, I certainly understand
Yeah.
that, but,
Sorry.
With the PCP shortage now, we might be up against it.
yeah, true.
Clarifying question here. When our driver does take somebody to an appointment, like a medical appointment, let's say it's in Marlboro, are they sitting there waiting for that person the whole time?
Good
Sometimes.
question.
Or
They don't
could
have
they
anybody
say, you know
else.
what, so-and-so just wanted to go to the post office in Hudson, I'm gonna go do that.
It should,
you know,
it should be. We should be
Okay.
able to do a
Drop and then
when
move
it
on.
gets up to full running, I would
Right.
expect and anticipate that they wouldn't just be sitting at the doctor's appointment, they would
Right.
loop back.
I would hope so too,
Yeah.
because it
My-
feels like you could drop people
And I
off
think
in
we need to
town,
set
then
that
move on to the
expectation.
next, and
Yeah.
then pick them up, and then.
And
Yeah.
that's gonna be, unfortunately, Peggy, that's gonna be part of scheduling
Yeah.
and kind of navigating the
Right.
How
route.
long it
And my
takes to
example-
get there and.
My example was, you started in Clinton, and they had dropped off somebody in Sterling, dropped up somebody in Leominster, dropped somebody off in Leominster-Fitchburg line, so like right at the top of Leominster. And then they went backwards to Sterling and dropped them back off to Clinton and then came back to get, so while it seems like it wastes maybe gas, but it's not wasting drivers' time
Exactly.
because they're just making a big loop. And it could be that they get the person in Sterling waits for us. Some of them, I know one of the ladies that I spoke to was like, if I have to get picked up early just to get on the van,
Right, yeah.
it's fine. If
But
I
I
have to
think
wait
that's
late,
part of
it's
it,
fine.
setting expectations,
Yeah.
because if our riders are used to, oh no, my driver just sits outside of Emerson
And
for an
waits
hour.
for me.
And
Yeah.
and so when I'm done, he's immediately there,
Yeah.
that sets an expectation now. Whereas we have to let people know, when your appointment, and I don't know if they call the driver when their appointment is done, or.
Yes.
Yeah, but
It-
then, you can say, again, like when we pick them up, within 30 minutes, someone will be there. Or,
It does say in here, in one of the places I did see that, you will receive a card with your driver's cell phone number on it.
yeah,
And if your appointment is running late, as soon as you know, you're, like if you sit in the doctor's office for 20 minutes, you're like, oh, I might not make it back for my pickup ride. They really should be calling to let somebody know, whether it's Peggy, the driver, myself.
yeah,
And then, you can kind of get in touch with the driver and say, hey, she's not gonna make it today, or, you might look at the schedule and say, all right, well, tomorrow's light, you're only working till 12, if you can pick her up till 3, I will wait here for you to get back.
Yeah.
I think those are some things that, again, go with accommodating the people, not people that do it all the time, not
Right.
people that purposely schedule appointments at 2:30. But you also can't help a medical appointment running late if they're behind.
sometimes it happens.
I've worked in doctor's offices too. If they're
Happens
behind,
at
they're
fair
behind for the
amount.
day now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes one patient being late or one patient asking an extra question. So I do think that we can use some verbiage to make sure that things are known before.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's just going over, you know, the rules that we decide, so, I actually have to get out of here. So I can make the corrections that we talked about and send them back out. We can do one more check on them and make sure that everything seems okay. And then I think, I will double check with Kristen, but I think because we made changes, we probably need it to be done by, approved by you guys again, and then approved by the select board with any changes that we're making to it.
With any changes?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, I would assume so, just because this one was, so it says Monday through Thursday, since we're changing it.
Well, that's substantial.
Or Monday through Fridays, I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Okay, right.
What do
Um,
we want to do about next meeting? Did we make any decision?
Yeah, I cannot be here on the 24th, so we can either, in that meeting for transportation is the 23rd, so I don't know if you wanna do July 1st or 2nd, if that works for everybody for our actual COA board meeting. This was a
It's okay with me.
special one. Either day works for you, Jen? Okay. Kate, you are gone the
I
whole
might
week,
be
right?
able to do the first, but
Okay.
definitely not the second.
Do we have, if we have the quorum without you?
Yeah. Do it.
Not that I wanna leave you out, but
Yep,
I
I
can
don't
do the-
mind.
I can do the first also.
first, okay,
I can do either the 30th or the 1st.
okay,
I'm open.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
And we'll send Kit 1, 2, 3, 4, so that'll be enough to hold it.
I can do the 30th too.
Okay, all right.
Should I make a
Don't- I
motion
can do
to
Well,
adjourn?
Not to throw,
Yeah, I can do this.
I know you need to go. How soon do you see us being able to say, we're gonna do a trip to Rhoda Spring, we're gonna do a trip to,
I am not putting anything out there because I thought that we would be already trying to find the driver.
no, I understand that, but when we have a driver and we're trying to show that the van use is
Oh,
waiting to
I mean,
be-
I would say that if we have a driver and we have something going, I would schedule something sooner rather than later,
Yeah,
like within the
good,
first couple
okay.
weeks. To be like, hey, we're going to Golden Skep Farm,
Mhm.
right down there. Who needs a ride? Just to, again, to show the need, you
Yep.
know, pack it up.
And
There's 10
again,
people that are wanting to go.
anti-isolation.
And,
Yes.
and that's what I think it is,
Fresh air.
just getting it out there. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
I think this,
If
stopped here.
someone wants to go to Rail Trail for lunch, we get a bunch of people going.
There you go.
I think they ended our meeting before.
We were doing that with
Oh.
Neshoba and then.
It says recording
people
still, but we're
stopped
gone.
Signing up, it's, come
Oh.
on, what are you doing?
Well, I'd
What
like
we
to
did,
make
I
a
thought-
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second?
Second, third.